This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, welcome. Got a big crowd today. So we call to order. Secretary will note the committee members present. We got a full group. And we need the approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman,
Call over.
I don't need to.
Come on. I want to say here.
he wants to say here.
We'll say here.
For Hildebrand?
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, as I spoke with you on the phone to let you know, I do have a revival in Midway. And so I'm going to have to leave at 6 o'clock. And so I recognize that there's some of the non-actions you would like to hear. With your permission, with making a motion for the agenda, would it be appropriate if number 2 was heard and then 3 and 4 was put towards the end of the action items? Sorry, Mr. Glenn, but.
Let me give you some indication. We're missing Janie. She's homesick.
I did not know if that was going to weaken this or not.
So I suspect that our information report about the fourth quarter budget is going to be shortened quite a bit, would be my guess. So,
Well, Mr. Chair, Councilor, so we have 2 reports. One is the DFA first quarter report, and then the detailed report that Janie prepared for the committee. There are some highlights that I can go over if that's the will of the committee.
well, but it's not going to be fair because you've been playing at the airport for a while.
Right.
For us to glean information out of you because you've been out of pocket.
Correct.
And I understand that, but I think we could probably take it in this order. You've got in front of you a copy of the inventory. I think we've all got copies of it now.
Yes.
Okay. And this is a lot healthier than I thought it was going to be, but there's a lot of information here that you need to kind of look at. I glanced at it. I asked him if I was going to have a test at the end of the meeting. He said, well, yeah, you're supposed to have it all digested before the meeting starts.
Mr. Chairman, if you want to leave it in order, just as long as everyone recognizes that 6, I will have to.
Well, I think we're going to speed through it faster than, and because I'm telling you right now that we're going to review the first quarter report before our next scheduled budget meeting. We're going to do a special meeting. I'll get my calendar out. We'll call around because this is what we're supposed to do is watch the budget.
Okay.
That's our premier reason for being here.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Okay.
Second.
Who wants credit?
Mr. Foster.
Pick one.
Councilor Hildebrand.
Okay. Foster's a lot shorter than Hildebrand.
Yeah, it's easier to spell.
Any disagreement with approval of the agenda? Hearing none, approved 4-0. Minutes.
No concerns on minutes from me.
None here.
Any
No, I'm fine.
corrections or
No.
deletions? Okay.
Just approve them as to.
You approve the minutes. Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. There you go. You earned your paycheck today. Any opposition to approval of the minutes for October 6th? Hearing none, passes 4-0. Information reports.
Here, go to the next one. Okay, Mr. Chair, committee members, so this is the October GRT report. As you can see there, the actual collected is $3.6 million. We anticipated budgeting for this month $3 million, so we are in the plus of $500,000. You can see there the trend line based on the expected budgeted amount. We're hovering above what we anticipated was going to be the actual collection, which is good. So we'll go to the next slide. As you can see there, comparison between FY22 and the current year-to-date activity, we're at $12 million budgeted, but we actually collected $14 million. So we're up $2.3 million, 19.8%. Next slide. This is a graph just on the cannabis tax. It's not in millions, it's in thousands, but it's still showing a increase since July. And of course, starting to, kind of balance out, even out for September, October. And we'll be tracking this on a graphical representation as well for. So year to date is $57,000 collected. This is just to show everybody just the current activity of all our grant appropriations. Again, all of these are highlighted just because the reversion date is June 30th, 2023. It's the end of this fiscal year. So we want to make sure we are on top of that so we don't lose any of the grant money. Just two quick items to report. These are other grant activity that we've been working on, our staff. We did submit the 2023 Water Trust Board applications. There are $93.3 million in available funding. However, when we logged on for the presentations, there's $138 million in applications that communities throughout the state have requested. Our request for a waiver, because we have an existing Water Trust Board application that we haven't drawn down enough. A lot of communities, not just Roswell, because of the economy and the supply chain, their requests for waivers were approved. So ours was approved. So our applications move forward to the next step. So we presented the $9.6 million Hobson Road Flood Prevention Project and the $8 million Country Club Reservoir Rehab Project. Also, there is a New Mexico DFA matching grant application during the infrastructure conference last week, and we were notified that that deadline was coming up soon. So Amanda and myself, last week, we submitted an application. There's only $1 million available. However, the funding must be matched towards a federal grant application. Right now, we have a federal grant application that's related to the airport, and that's for the airport terminal project. And so we submitted the request for $500,000. We want half of all of the money that's available. So we'll see how that goes. And that's going towards design for the Roswell Airport Terminal project. We have previously submitted another application for grant capacity building, which provides funding for communities to hire additional grant services for grant writing and so forth.
Mr. Chairman, is this a VFA matching grant of $1 million available statewide?
Yes,
Okay.
that's the $1 million that's all available for, again, but it is tied to a federal grant application. So it made it easy for us since we have one pending application.
Yeah, we sent that federal application off a couple of months ago.
That's right. And the mayor had to sign a new application. We do it every year. But again, it's tied perfectly for this request. And that's the last slide for grant activity. Chanel will give a quick update, Mr. Chair, on the DFA first quarter report, just on major highlights.
Okay.
Good afternoon. So what you see before you, this is from the DFA system, LGBMS. So we take our income statement and put it into their chart of accounts. So this is a lot more consolidated than our financials are, but it has our beginning cash, what our investments are now, revenues, transfers, expenses, and any adjustments. The adjustments would include any net changes in our balance sheet accounts, any rounding differences, and changes in investments from the fourth quarter. And then, of course, we have our ending cash balance. And so I will stand for any questions.
Any questions?
I'm just trying to digest it. I've looked at it and I just digesting this report. It's pretty extensive.
Yeah, there's a lot to this. I mean, look at the stack.
Yeah, and everything ties to our financials. So the income statement, DFA, and the balance sheet all wrapped up together.
Yeah.
So this is just a lot more consolidated than ours.
How's prepared?
The transfers, the 1.2, if you can just tell me on that, where those transfers are from.
So those are transfers either in or out. We have transfers that include out to the three funds, which would be Zoo, Golf, and Museum. We
Okay,
also,
that's
okay.
okay. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would recommend, because this is very extensive, and trying to review these things, that we have some workshop meeting or something when the state is back to dive into these, because we could be here for hours looking at these line items, and I'm concerned some of the revenue sides of things that are not where they're projected to be, and what are we going to do? Or is it just a caution flag right now, and trying to understand if there's some of these things are cyclical, that do they come up at a later date, these revenues, or how did we do the revenues? Did we just take it and divide it by 12? Or did we put them on a cyclical?
And Mr. Chair, Councilor, it really depends on the fund.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I mean, looking at each fund, we can better answer that question. Is it cyclical? Is it, what's driving that
Yeah.
trend?
Right.
But again, we'll have to review it in detail by fund.
Yeah, and I think that's something to do so that full council can understand all of that.
The other thing, noted going through this, that I didn't have what POs we've already got out. I'm understanding it's 21 million bucks, give or take. And for instance, as I went by Janie's office, trying to get ready for this today. Where is that?
He has a sheet in here that says.
Well,
open
did
field.
you get that stuff copied?
Yes, I mean, as far as the outstanding POs, the open POs, the report is in here as well.
It's in here,
You did include that in there as well.
page 170.
And
I missed it.
that's correct. It's back on starts on page 170. It goes all the way through
This
179.
includes the open POs at the airport?
Yes, got them all.
Oh, there it is.
Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Jamie,
Well, it's disturbing to me. We've got open POs dated back in FY20.
Mhm.
Closed the book 3 times since then. And we need to catch up, find out where we are on this $250,000. And then we also have right at $2 million in open POs from FY21. We just need to know kind of where we stand on this stuff. Eventually, these suckers are going to show up and we got to write a check for them because these are all promissory notes to the various vendors. And do we have a real liability for this $1.25 million, or has it already been closed out? We just didn't catch up with paperwork, or what's the status?
and again, it will require more detailed discussion on that. What I can tell you that even some of the older POs, sometimes they're related to a project. And in the past, they have not closed a PO. They would add more, like a change order to that PO, and it just stays open. I think we're trying to change that process now to be able to close POs so that we don't have these 2-year-old POs.
Yeah.
But it requires more review of those that are outstanding for that long to be able to tell you what exactly is the story behind them. So again, going back to your request of having a workshop for more detailed discussion would be a good thing.
Yoletta, I probably got that messed up. Is there a date somewhere that you no longer have to consider them? Do they expire? Do POs expire, or do they just go on forever? Or do you know? You may not know.
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure.
Okay, we need to check in on that because some of these may be not valid.
Well, and Chair Committee members, that has never been an issue with the auditors when they look at our books. Again, it's never been something that has been a flag. However, it is something that in the past, we have questioned why we have these really old POs. And again, that's why we're looking at changing that process. I'm not allowing that. But again, there's a story. And I think looking at each one of them, and some of them, I believe, may be tied to capital projects. Depending on the department, we can certainly ask those department directors to provide additional details on that.
Well, okay. I mean,
Well, just good housekeeping.
That's right.
well, 23, we got $13 million out, but I know some of that may be building improvements, we got infrastructure, and some things just fall into that category.
Mhm.
You know, 23, we're up to 6 million according to this, well, yeah, 6 million still not dealt with. It's the remaining balance on those original $11 million worth of POs.
You got 21, almost $22 million in total open POs at this point in time.
Well, that's pretty
But you don't know
serious.
how much of this is coming out of restricted funds and how much is coming out of regular budget. It
Right.
doesn't tell you that.
Well, you know, if we got some cash stuck somewhere to cover these POs.
We don't know that.
Well, if we do, that's great, but somebody needs to say something.
Right.
So we've got big liabilities out there and you can't get by with them. There's no way to get out of these deals that I'm aware of. Mr. our attorney, maybe he'll see some case law. You can actually work out something, but I don't. Because they don't get, they get this PO, then they do the job, and then when they complete the job and it's inspected, then they turn in the PO. At least that's the way I understand it's supposed to work.
Mr. Chair, whenever the meeting is scheduled, I will get with Janie and maybe recommend that we send to the departments a detailed report of their outstanding POs so that they can be prepared and do some research and answer any questions the committee may have.
Yeah, and show whether they're restricted funds or whether they're just out of general operating budget would be very helpful.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
So,
all right. What else do you have? We'll hand those out. You got copies?
Well, if we're going to go over them at a workshop, we can certainly cover that with Janie because she's the one that knows that she did quite a bit of work on putting this together.
All right.
Mr. Chair, you mind, I have a question for Mr. Fuentes. When we're talking about budget and you know, when the water fund ran short, we had to shore it up, and there was said that there were emergencies that we had to use those funds for. But it was also said a lot of those were reimbursed. Some of that amount was reimbursable.
Mhm.
I'd like to see what the reimbursable is because that's money coming back into the budget and when we expect to receive those amounts.
Yes, sir.
Because we saw the outflow, but we have no idea what the inflow will be. So I think it would be very beneficial to see where that water fund is going to stand when those monies come back to them.
Yes, sir.
So in the overall
And-
picture of the finances for the city, it would be very beneficial to have that.
Yeah, and we'll provide that information. I can give you just an example of the water line with the school district. We initially had to fund the expense. But we have received a lot of the reimbursement back. That happened this fiscal year.
Yeah.
So we'll be able to illustrate that.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Fuentes.
Also,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
probably did bring that piece of paper. I got too many pieces of paper.
I'll help him out.
No, you don't throw this stuff away till I get a grasp. Oh, here it is. One of our, and this is a report that was due, that was presented to me and Cash at 10/31. We've got one of our enterprise funds that's underwater, 176.
Which one would that be? Can you tell?
Landfill.
Landfill?
I'm not sure what report you're looking at, Mr. Chair.
Well, this report, I was asking questions the other day and she put this report together, that's all I can tell you. And like I said, I want a beginning cash, ending cash, going back as far as FY16. And the airport is up about 200,000. Solid waste is up almost $1 million. Landfill's down. Water's up 1.381. And wastewater is down 600,000, give or take.
Well, if you look on your packet on page 12, since you mentioned solid waste, this is just a DFA report, but it's not where I want to direct your attention to. It's not there. But if you look towards the bottom, solid waste fund, the solid waste fund, if you look at the ending cash per the first quarter report, it shows $4.9 million.
I understand.
And that's both sanitation and the landfill combined.
I got it, but, and also I mean, because I was questioning this, and so I got this report. And it's showing you're in a county. Is that a minus? Is it red?
It's back in what?
Mr. Chair and committee members, and I think that's why I think having a workshop with Ms. Davis here would be advisable, because it all depends what numbers that report is pulling from versus what we're reporting to DFA in the first quarter. Because we can report to DFA a fund in the negative.
No, I understand. And as I said, this is as of October 31st. This is long after this report was sent to DFA.
This is September 30th, first quarter, right?
So
Well,
that's one of my
part of this, when you
questions
look at
I'm
these
going to ask.
balances, you still don't know what's encumbered. These are just because there are balances up there doesn't mean that those funds are free and clear to be spent. That's for everybody in this room to understand. Just because you see all this money there does not mean that the city has all this money sitting around doing nothing. So these funds are committed or they're restricted. And so just because that says $17 million is in the operating fund, doesn't mean that we have $17 million to spend.
And again, well, yes, and on the general fund, just please note that that 17 million does not include the allocation from the enterprise funds. The transfers are not in there in the first quarter.
Yeah.
And that's in the presentation that Jamie will be presenting to you.
Okay. All right. And then I know you haven't been there, but it's my understanding that many of these under the 70-30 plan are underwater. I saw a report. I don't have it with me. I apologize. That a couple of the entities made 7% and one of the entities made 40%. So we've got a hole there of somewhere around $2.5 million. So we're gonna have to pick it up at the end of the year.
Right.
So, I mean, we're tight. Anybody that thinks otherwise, show me.
I think that's why it would be good to have a workshop so that these things can be dealt with in depth. And
You know, interesting thing, I've been writing budgets, government budgets for a long time, and there's always a whole lot more requests and need out there than there's money to flow.
yeah. Well, I'll just give you an example. The recreation fund. We're 25% through the year and our revenue is running only 14%. So there's a shortfall. Those are the kind of things we need to address and talk about.
You know, it's better to figure it out now than it is when we do our big mid-year review in February. Might happen in January. I don't think so. But we gotta figure out a way to get my arms around this thing. I haven't got it figured out yet.
Mr. Chair and committee members, I think, as you pointed out, usually at a high level overview, when you look at a budget, first quarter, you got to be at 25%.
Yeah. So
when you look at Department of Recreation or solid waste, and you see that the revenues are only 15%, there's got to be a question as to why.
Yep.
And then you start diving into the individual line items and start asking questions.
Yep. What's
happening? Is it a trend or is it something? And I think that's just at a high level, you start diving deeper and deeper. If the expenses is over 30%, it could be because we pay insurances at the beginning of the year. But all of those questions, again, in the workshop will really help to kind of dive into the details.
And some bills you got to pay in advance, like your insurance,
That's right.
and then you amortize that throughout the rest of the year. Is that the right term?
right, but they just dump it in.
Yeah, but you got to pay up front. And some of these projects that Commissioner, Counselor was just mentioning about, we got to pay up when we're going to get our share back, just like last month at the city council meeting. We had to verify that we were willing to pick up almost $170,000 for some money, grant money that we're applying for before the grant was due. Well, okay, we don't know if we're going to get the grant or not. And it'll be sometime in the future when we have to write that check. But we're going to have to pay all of it up front eventually and then get reimbursed later. So we got to have a healthy cash balance to make all this stuff work. Because if you don't, you know, you're going to get underwater. You're going to have an empty bank account. It's hard, all these different funds and rules and stuff to figure out. It's pretty intensive. Okay, is that all you've got?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, as soon as Janie gets feeling better, I get a chance to get a hold of her, we'll get something scheduled. They'd be kind of short notice, but we'll get a hold of her. What your calendars are, we'll all keep it as. We have to meet on Saturday, I guess we'll have to meet on Saturday.
Just get it done.
Yeah,
Let's go.
we got to do this before we can go, in my opinion, any further, because we don't know what, we're just talking about stuff.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, this is the lodger's tax update for August. Clarion did pay their main as well as the late penalty of $1,406.39. La Quinta paid July, August, and September. However, they have not paid their late penalty payment. We are sending out a notification. We had one new short-term rental reporting at 1919 Clover Lane. Our STAR data report showed that we're at 59.2% occupancy, which is about 3% higher year to date from last year. And then our ADR, which is the average daily rate, we're also about 3% higher than August of 2021 and 10% higher year to date. This is the lodger's tax report collections. We were at about, again, 57.8% occupancy and collected $120,051. Next one. This is the convention center bed fee, the $2.50, again, about 57.8, and we collected $67,088. And I will stand for any questions.
They're running about, I was just looking at the bed fee. So if it projects out for the rest of the year, that will be 800. It'd be a slight increase over 22.
Oh,
Yeah. And so.
I'd like a bigger increase, but
That's good.
The bond payment is what, 650?
we'll have our next payment in beginning of January.
At 650.
So we should have 800, so there should be a little excess, assuming things stay where the trend stays intact.
And if we check that balance, some of it could go towards, we've talked about putting a washer and dryer, but also putting a actual emergency generator there.
Yep. Yeah.
And that money could go towards that.
Yeah.
I have an idea for them too. I think lots of things that can make better. Any other questions?
Nope. Good. Don't see any hands waving down there, so. Okay. Let's do our warehouse. Real quick.
Chairman, committee members, I'm impressed how many people came just to hear about the warehouse. That has to be what this is.
It is impressive.
So before we get started, I want to tell you how the warehouse is funded. You go through the budget and you don't see anything that says warehouse. The warehouse is considered, we pull that money, the inventory is considered part of the cash on hand for the city. That's why you don't see it anywhere when you go through the budget. It starts hitting department budgets when they come over and buy stuff out of the warehouse. And with our new system now, that immediately hits their budget. As soon as that transaction is done, it goes into Tyler and takes the money out. So that was one of the things that we were kind of excited about is you have real-time numbers and stuff with that now. So our warehouse staff is Miguel Martinez, right here. He's our senior warehouse worker, and Joseph Montoya, behind you. He's one of our warehouse workers. Both of our staff have received their chief procurement officer certification from the state of New Mexico. We are pretty proud of that.
Yeah.
We're trying to convince management to be pretty proud of that because at this point, they won't recognize it, but we're working. That takes a lot. And these guys are the ones that work with the contracts all the time. They need to know this stuff. And we've changed some of our processes and procedures because of that. Next slide. So what do we have in the warehouse? Office supplies, copy paper, pens, papers, pencils, and crayons for the engineers. We have, the files, envelopes, flags, notepads. You can see pictures of, what we have here in stock. Next slide. We have a special room off to the side that's our valve room. We carry everything from 1/4-inch gate valves up to 16-inch mainline water valves. We stock our own hydrants. We keep a fairly good stock of those at all times. We have our meter boxes, pipe. We have the PVC, 1/2-inch to 6-inch. The C900, that's the blue stuff that you see us putting in the ground, that's a big water main. We have that from 4-inch to 24-inch, double iron. We thought we had half iron, but we don't. That's not one of the things we stock anymore, really. Wouldn't use it unless it was for something real special. Then, of course, we have our water meters. Next slide. We also stock all the repair fittings for water and wastewater. We have dressers, Hymax, Ferncos. These are all the things that if there's a leak or we're doing new projects, that's what holds the pipes together. We've now been stocking our own diesel exhaust fluid. One of the things that we found out through our relationship with John Deere is they were having problems when you were buying the DEF out of the service stations.
Yeah.
Because as soon as that stuff hits air, it starts to crystallize. Now that we've been using our own, we use a whole box, don't use partial boxes, dump it all in there. We haven't had problems that we've had with our equipment before.
Awesome.
So that's helped us a lot. Batteries, we have our own asbestos disposal supplies. Guys in my department are certified as asbestos contractors. So we have all of our own stuff. Have a bunch of automotive fluids and safety supplies and PPEs. One of the things that we're starting right now too is we've had a company that's been coming in and restocking our first aid kits, and the price is just amazing. We're going to start having it so we have the inventory in the warehouse. They can bring their first aid kit in, we'll restock it for them, then they're out the door. Next slide. For plumbing fittings, we have brass, galvanized, PVC and valves, hand tools, rake, shovels, sledgehammers, hand pumps, sprayers, hoses. Just about anything that we would need. Next slide. Some of the new things at the warehouse. Last year, this year, all kinds of runs in together now. We had to do a new electrical service. We got Excel to upgrade the service coming in for free because they didn't, the way it was set up, their linemen don't like that. It's an old way, dangerous. They were really happy to change that out. At the same time, we upgraded the service panels and everything in the building. We had an electrical inspector come over and look at it. He opened up the doors, closed them, and walked in. He said he's pretty sure that that was never code. So, and as we were doing that, we did wire in for a portable generator connection, and the generator is ordered. So if something happens, we'll be able to power that building. Or we can use that generator in different places. What we did was ordered it mounted on a trailer so we can move it around as we need it. You can see there the new access counter. This was a security upgrade. One of the first things Janie did when she got here was come over, walk through the warehouse and went, if the auditor saw this, we would have problems. So now we have a key card access control. We know who goes in and out of there all the time. And for the most part, it's just the warehouse guys or a supervisor, or in the evenings or weekends, it's one of the crew leaders that have access to that. And then you can see our new warehouse delivery truck. That replaces a 1990 something one. The brakes were really funny. So, but it has the lift gate, it has all the stuff that they need so they can make the deliveries and stuff all over the city. Next slide. One of our new things that we got put in there was the Tyler inventory control module. This gives us real-time inventory. These reports that are in front of you that I just handed out, those were done today. We know, we can tell you what we have in stock and what that inventory is worth at any given time. It instantly charges the department accounts. And like I said, we're still working on some of the different reports. That top report, the item reorder report, that's one that we're still working on. There's a toggle somewhere that we need to work on to get what we want out of it. But if you go back through there, there's the purchase order reports. You know, when purchase orders were issued, if they've been filled yet. Items that need to be reordered. And then the perpetual inventory, what it tells you across the top is what the beginning balance was at the beginning of the fiscal year. The next item is year-to-date receipts, what we've brought in, year-to-date issues. If we've done any adjustments, transfers in, transfers out, the ending balance as of today, and then what the inventory value is as of today. And if you look at the very last page, our inventory value right now is $1,751,000. So that's what that inventory sitting over there is worth. Also in your packets, I got a hold of our sales rep from Core and Main. We keep hearing the supply chain issues. And you know, that seems to be everybody's excuse for having stuff on their shelf now. I asked her I said, I'm tired of going to the council and saying it's a supply chain issue. Can you explain to us what the supply chain issue is? And she sent a really nice email back explaining kind of what's happening with Core and Main. And then there's one in there from Mueller that describes the problem they're having. And if you look at that one, more and more of it is getting the raw material into the country. And Mueller is one of the ones that does most of our brass. 5 years ago, EPA passed a regulation that said you can't use leaded brass anymore. Well, lead is what made the brass. Yeah, well, it made it so it didn't fall apart. Right now, they're using manganese. Manganese is only sourced out of China. So, you know, I don't know who writes up this stuff or they know where their sources are from. But when when we rely on a country like China to do our basic stuff, that causes a problem. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, I think it's a great report that are able to use this system. Does this thing automatically update price change when you issue a new purchase order?
When the purchase order comes in, yes.
Whatever your price is at that point.
Yes.
So you know at that point in time.
And then if we have, let's say we ordered 10 new items.
Yeah.
And then we have 5 in stock, it goes back and it'll take those 5 and put it up to the new price.
Yeah.
Because that's the replacement cost.
Replacement pricing.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and the other one is, I see that you're doing a lot of great work for water and wastewater and keeping a lot of inventory for them. Do you get a surcharge for your convenience that you're providing to him?
It should.
I mean, you're saving these departments a lot of time and creating a lot of efficiencies for the city by what you're doing here, Robert.
Well, and one of the issues that I have is I think that the warehouse is a very underused department in the city. You know, now everybody, we stock paper for everybody.
Yeah.
But there's other items that we can buy in bulk and keep in stock. But we don't. You know, everybody goes out and buys their own stuff at Office Max or that kind of stuff. But I think it's a very underused, and it's a way to really save some money if we started leveraging our buying power.
Yep.
Especially off state contracts.
Yep.
And then honestly, we've been using Amazon a lot to leverage our vendors. Because we'll go on there, we'll check Amazon prices and say, you know, a classic example is our steel concrete saws.
Mhm.
If we buy the filters for those locally, it's $26. I can get on Amazon, buy 5 of them for 25. So I go back to the vendor, you know, our local vendor and say, what's up? I'm buying the same stuff. And he goes, that's a good question. And he goes back to his distributor and goes, what's up? Why are they able to do this?
Yeah. Well, I know you try to shop local the best you can, but at some point in time, you just gotta say it doesn't work, and that's what you're saying. So
And
I think you're doing a great job.
local, you know, we can try and do the 10% thing.
Yeah.
You know, if we can get it within 10%, then we'll keep the money local. If we can't, then our job is to get the best bang for our buck.
Yeah. Well.
And these guys do an amazing job. Any of the big purchase orders and that, there's always 3 quotes that go with it from our business. And they play them against each other constantly.
No, that's great. Now you guys are doing a great job over there. So,
We thank you for your
And-
support.
well, as something as a function that no one in the city really knows what's going on. And so I'm glad you came here today to do this presentation and make us all aware of what you're all accomplishing over there, and commend you both on that. So,
And our reports will get better. Like I said, we're learning this system, and we have a trainer that we work with Titus, and she is one of those spot on people. We can call her and she tells us how to do stuff. Hey. No other questions?
Well, there's a lot to digest, and I appreciate your due diligence.
Oh, no, like I told you, you should be able, I gave that to you 15 minutes before the meeting started.
I appreciate that too.
And for the other counselors that are here, if you guys want the same reports, just let me know and I can get them.
But if you run them this afternoon, they'll be different than they were when you ran this one.
Yes.
I'll share them when somebody wants to look at it.
Okay, so that gets us through operations, inventory, spending, authorization reports, the next thing.
And that was the report that you guys had requested from the authorization that you gave us to do that spending. That's the spending for the period from October 13th to last Wednesday. Those were the purchase orders and such that were issued.
Right. What do we offer? 1.4?
1.6, I think. was
1.6,
total.
and you've got approximately 350,000 out. So.
And is that what you guys wanted to see in that report? Just where the money went?
Where you're at it. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I want to see.
Very helpful. Okay. All right, any other questions before we go on to the action items? Okay, here we go.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you. I'll be presenting this afternoon. This item here was presented to Public Safety last week with a recommendation 4-0 to send to full council and the Finance Committee. Mr. Nebb did present this item, it's 2 weeks ago, present this item to the Public Safety Committee requesting, and I know he sent this entire presentation out, his presentation out to each of the city councils. Then he included that presentation in our packet. I just connected it or added it to your packet also today. I'm sure most of you have already read this. I won't beat this up too much, but we'll go through it real quick. Based on New Mexico's administrative code, shelter services shall be performed in a manner ensuring the health and well-being of animals while in the care of the shelter. Providers will recommend the standards are 15 minutes per animal per day. Based on that information they put together, we have 15 enclosures in our shelter. Using those numbers and the amount of staff that we currently have, we need to add an additional 5 kennel workers to the shelter based on these numbers. We are also asking to add an additional animal control officer to this at the same time. After discussing this with Mr. Nebb, prior to him putting this together, I would like to see an officer at all times in the shelter for the simple fact that as animals are caught out in the public and they're brought in, somebody comes to reclaim that animal, there needs to be that discussion with the people on citations, whether that animal has received its microchip, whether it has its required by state law vaccination, and then the potential of a running a whole citation. I don't believe currently that that's being done for many reasons, and maybe staff reasons, maybe an officer's not in the shelter at the time that somebody comes in to reclaim, that by having an officer at the shelter at all times, they can handle those citations that need to be issued and be a backup at that shelter in case they're needed. Two parts to this. The $325,000 would add the 5 additional kennel workers and the 1 officer to the staff at the shelter. And then it comes part of the discussion that shelter services all of Chaves County. So we have Dexter Hagerman, Lake Arthur, Chaves County, and the city of Roswell. Mr. Nebb broke down in his, one of the ways to doing it was, we just talked about it, was based on population. So Roswell would have 74.3% of the burden of the cost of running the shelter. So that's about 48,000 people of the 65,000 in Chaves County. So if you, the $775,000 to run just the shelter, not the officers, but just the shelter, he broke that down into Roswell would be paying $575,000 a year for the shelter. If we divided it up, Chaves County would pitch in about $173,000. Dexter, $12,000, Hagerman, $7,000, Lake Arthur, $4,000. Now, those discussions still need to be had with those entities. I'll be going forward, depending on what happens here, to start having discussions with those. So that obviously they need to prepare in their budgets in the coming fiscal years. But that's where we're at. That was the plan, to initially get it started and then work with our partners in Chaves County for a fair share of the operation of this facility. And I think it's only fair. We take in a lot of animals, we track them every month. That report is in the public safety report every month on that animals that come in from, doesn't break down Dexter, Hagerman, Lake Arthur, but it does break down animals brought in from from the county, Chaves County.
Fair in your estimation.
Pardon me?
I know this is not your work.
Yes, sir.
Do we need to divide that up by the population, or do we need to divide it up by the number of animals that we see?
The difficulty on the animals, you don't know if that animal's coming from Dexter, Hagerman, or Lake Arthur, or Chaves County. There's
You know why that is?
Pardon me?
You know why that is?
I think it's because the Chaves County Sheriff's picks them up from.
Well, the Chaves County,
They meet part way and
right.
exchange the animals. And the other complaint, because I've already, my county commission buddies has already said that they go by the shelter with a load of animals and they can't find anybody there to receive the animals, which having your full-time person there might help that. The other thing that I find discouraging is that if I understand this human resources report we got in legal committee the other day, there's 33% turnover in employees out there. And monthly turnover of 11.1. This was for the month of, let me see here. Month of September. I didn't have a chance to review this when it was handed out. I've got some questions about it, but that's for another deal. They're budgeted for 9 now, and they've got 1 vacant according to the report. So what can we do about keeping people if we hire them?
Right. That's a problem. I have that issue, and you got the report there from HR and many of our positions that don't pay as much as others. So we have a constant turnover in our shelter. I think I've seen Abby here somewhere. There's Abby right behind me. I think she could speak to it on the Humane Society. I know we spoke a couple of weeks ago and about the need or the struggle of finding employees for these kennel positions. Because obviously, you're cleaning waste all day long. And those are tough jobs, and keeping somebody for a long period of time in those jobs is difficult to do. Now, I won't say that's all the reason, but I'm just saying that it's difficult to some of these positions to have long-term employees in them.
If I may too, I think right now we're short-staffed, so that the staff that you have are being overworked. So they're doing a lot more work. They're doing the work for 2 or 3 people. So if you have more staff, I think it'll spread out more evenly. They won't be so stressed.
Well, and just something to consider also, this is a 7-day-a-week operation. The shelter may not be open on a Sunday. But we still have employees in there that's feeding and cleaning. So just so you know, just to throw that out. So
let me ask you, it's my understanding that we're having a group or somebody come in and give us a top-down review.
Yes, sir. So we have worked with, correct me on the name of that group, Jim.
Best Friends.
Best Friends. We met with them maybe a month ago. We met with them several times, and they have offered to come in and do a complete evaluation of our facility. I believe they'll be here November 14th, 15th.
No, that's like the end of the month.
29th. Okay, I'm sorry. Anyway, they're coming in for a few days, bringing their staff in, offer them full access to the facility. I want to know the good, the bad, the ugly. And I want it in a written form, a written report on what they find at our shelter.
And this is at their cost. The city is
Yeah,
paying.
we're not paying a dime for this. They're coming in and doing all the work.
Like we've got them talked into coming in working for free. When do you anticipate we'll get the report? They're going to be here in November.
Right. I'm assuming as long as, I wouldn't think it would take them maybe a few weeks, 2 or 3 weeks to write that report and get it to us so that we know policies, procedures, practices, cleaning procedures. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? What could we improve on? That's what we've asked them to provide us. As the outside independent, I mean, we got a lot of people in this room today. I think we all have our own opinions on how things should be run, how things should be done. That getting a fresh set of eyes, that was my opinion, getting a fresh set of eyes on a problem, because it's been a problem for many years, and help us identify what is the next step. Let's fix this, let's fix it once, and let's fix it right and get off this. On to something else that we need to do. We've got a lot of issues in the city, and we got to start knocking some of these things off and quit dealing with them. Me and Sammy's been dealing with this for years. I would love to see Sammy on occasion and not talk about animal control.
Yeah, right.
Let's talk about the streets or something else. Potholes.
Potholes, that's always an issue.
Yeah.
Trust me, every time I can't go into a store without hearing about a pothole.
So that's, apologize. I did not put, I've been kind of busy. I haven't put a PowerPoint presentation. I don't want to overwhelm you with the same information over and over again. I know you've got it. You're diligent in reading your information. So, and Jim's here. Jim is actually the director over animal control. I apologize. I would have had other staff here if I didn't even think about it. I thought we'll be glad to attempt, and anybody has any questions, I'm sure we'll be glad to try to answer them, me and Jim.
Anybody else got any questions?
I just know the care of the animals is not, they're doing their best, but they're just short-staffed and it's not happening right now. And I don't want to end up where they have to put more down because they don't have the staff. So I saw the report with the GRT, it's going up. That's a good way to fund it.
Well,
That's a separate issue.
I know.
And what I want to see here is what is our written process? Just throwing money at something doesn't solve the issues.
Well, I think, Jim, you said she.
And so I'm interested to see what this report's going to come back and tell us. It may be saying, you need to have 500,000 or 200,000 or what? I want to see this report. I'm not against fixing the problem, but I want to see a written plan and a written process. So as you say, Mr. Matthews, we don't have to revisit this again. Everybody's in agreement that this is what we're going to do. And we're all in agreement to make this happen. So I would like to wait until we get that report so that we're not come back later and go, oh no, we need another 100 or 200 or 400, whatever it is. And I feel very strongly that the county needs to participate.
I do too.
They're participating at the tune of $15,000 a year. So, well, I don't want to be enemies of the county, but I'd lock the door to them and say, you can't come in anymore.
Yeah.
You're not paying your fair share. And that hasn't been addressed. And it's not fair to the people that live in this city to carry that financial burden for them. So they need to participate. However we can get that participation done, whatever that formula is. Or why don't we just give the Animal Control Center to the county?
We've offered.
Or Counselor Hildebrand, we can make a deal. We take theirs for free and they take our inmates for free.
That might be an okay deal too. But I don't know how we get that Fed fee transferred over, Counselor Ross.
Head almost exploded.
I can tell you that that's the only thing you're going to get out of your mouth and you're going to be shown the door.
Hey, can I go with you? Because I'd like to say the same words.
To answer your question too, I agree with you 100%. I have something I think now at my disposal that I didn't have a couple years ago when I did go to the county and got for the first time the $20,000. And
Right.
then the second year it dropped to 15,000. So I'm going to ask the chair here to assist me in that visit to the county when we start talking about
I'll
this.
go with you, but I'll have a bulletproof vest on.
Well, yeah, I know I read in the newspaper there, Mr. Matthews, that the county just received $5 million.
Well, the situation you got.
Stop. We're talking about the city money. Let's bring some of that 5 million.
Well, yeah, you know.
They got a lot of money now.
Well, but the problem is it's one-time money.
I know.
What we're talking about is recurring money. Next year it'll be 400,000.
We don't know what it'll be.
50. You know, I mean, it just because insurance rates go up, we supply
Everything.
insurance for our employees. Everybody wants a pay raise. 3% is going to make them holler this year because inflation's over 9.
I agree.
They're right close to it. And we got to start talking about that stuff and get serious about it at mid-year, because that's when we need to start thinking about our next budget that'll start in July 1st next year.
Mr. Chair, I don't disagree with you,
Yeah.
but what I'm saying is that they need to participate, and I know they didn't participate at all
Right.
for a long period of time,
Yep.
and we got some minimal participation out of them. And so I'm just saying that,
I will be approaching them, hoping to get some help as I approach that. But me and Mr. Williams are very close, so we work well together. So, and I would like to add one other thing, Mr. Chairman, if I could, because I know there's a lot of people in the room. And I sincerely mean this. I've worked with some of these groups for many years. The amount of work that they do, and the benefit that they provide to our community, such as this Humane Society, Ivy Hess and her group, Sammy and their group, if they would not be taking what they're taking out on a daily basis, and we're having to euthanize those animals, I mean, you're looking at anywhere from $65 to over $100 per animal
Right.
to do that. So our cost would be through the roof. When I first came back to the city, 15, ever how many years ago it was, there was hundreds of animals being euthanized. We don't have that anymore. It's hard to say one. We do not have the numbers that we've had, and it's because of the work of these good people, and they're really saving the city a lot of money in the work that they're doing. So I just want to thank them. Humane Society takes in a lot of our owner releases now, we don't have room for, and if they have room, they'll take them. If they have room.
Mr. Chair, I agree wholeheartedly on getting the county to start paying. I just don't like the fair share stuff. But that's just because I don't like that statement. But the other part about it is the numbers we do have here and the work that Mr. Knapp put into this, the 152 enclosures and the math on it shows the minimum that we need to increase is the 325. And so yeah, we could wait until then to we have the other action of the other group look at it. That's my alarm in the morning. So
You're late.
hey, was this a nightmare I was having or a dream I was having? Sorry. This is the minimum. And the fact that we might have to increase it more, I don't see that we would increase it less. I don't think so. But the fact that this is the minimum to get the standards up to hitting 152 kennels at 15 minutes a day, that's why I would say we should go ahead and act on this, just because this is just minimum to get it to hit these math. If this math is correct and it makes sense, 152 kennels at 15 minutes, that we're overworking the people we have now. And if you're concerned with a 30% turnover, well, we've got to get them help. Plus the animals, we need to have that 15 minute touch. Those kennels need to be touched at least 15 minutes a day. So that's where I would hesitate and kicking this can down the road any further. Go ahead. If we have the money in the general fund, because this is coming out of the general fund. Okay. Cash on hand. And you can argue open POs all you want to, but the other thing about it is this is a need that we have. I do know that, our reports show that we're about 2.4 million up, 2.5 million up. And true, that goes pretty fast, but this is a minimum standard that we do need to increase. And so I would highly push that we go ahead and do this minimal. And then if we come back and we need to add more, we add more later.
My concern is the animals are not getting the care they need. I think the staff is getting overworked, and that could be one of the reasons there's high turnover. I don't know if the state fines people not following the rules, but I think I don't want to start putting more animals down. And I think these dogs do need better care. And like he said, this is a minimum. I know the report will come up, the best friends, and I'm afraid it's going to be even more expense, but like you said, it's not going to go down. So
I have a suggestion.
Go ahead. Yep.
My suggestion is after your best friends come in and evaluate, since they are a national company, I think it might behoove us to try to find somebody like our ambulance service that comes in and we make a contract with them. That way there'll always be employees there to take care of the animals, no matter where the city sits at. And the county and the city can pay equal. And the best friends or whatever group comes in can use, the UFO insignia on their animals and use our building. And I'm sure there can be some sort of contract comes there. But then it leaves the city's hands and it goes to a national organization. And that way the city won't get the brunt. And then you still have to follow the state regs. So just that gets it off our plate and not any of our people here, but you guys can work with them just as easy as we can. It gets us off of our plate so we can focus on infrastructure and other things in Roswell that is important. Excuse me. I have a flat spot, sorry.
And I'll finish. And I don't know if they'll be willing to do that, but
they can find somebody.
Yeah.
One of the things I don't know I know some of these people go to court and they're not getting fined. I don't know if that won't help us in the short term, but I'm going to get with Mr. Yentema and try to change some of the ordinances to do a minimum fine required so the judge cannot say, release the fine.
Well,
so there's some things we can do to help pay for this, but in the meantime, the short term, it's not going to help.
Councilman Chair, I find it very disturbing that we're not collecting those. And who makes that decision not to do that? That's not their money.
They're not writing the citation.
Right. Not writing the citation is not that person's money. It's the citizens of this community's money. And I find that very disturbing that someone is not doing that.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're not doing it on every one. I don't know who's in the shelter when that person comes in.
Well, some, I think they're
Could
getting,
you tell us?
I think some are getting cited, but when they go to court, the judge is not enforcing the fines.
To answer the question, we prosecute as much as we can. Then at the end, we give you a citation. That animal's on court hold. We have 100 open cages, relying on the rescue groups to bail us out, to get the dogs out of here. Now I've got 10 of them waiting for court. We lose control at that point, and the judge decides when we go to court and when we prosecute. So it's a balancing act. We have developed a training program for our officers to learn how to prosecute, and we're heading that direction, hopefully with new ordinances to increase that fee to where it can't go down. So yes, it's true, we prosecute, but it's kind of juggling.
What is the fine for?
There's no mandatory fine.
No mandatory fine.
That's what we may do, a mandatory
I
fine.
think municipal court goes for $500, and
Up to 500 municipal court.
but it's not a minimum.
Mr. Chair, I think that Councilor Best has said over here is that we possibly find an independent operator makes a tremendous amount of sense for the city.
Mhm.
That we get out of that business and we start taking care of the health, safety, and welfare of the rest of the citizens of this city. And so I don't know who that is. It needs to start that dialogue or find that group, but I would suggest that we explore that ASAP, that gets done and there's a joint powers done with the county and this is how we do it. And so,
Your best friends have octopus arms all over the nation.
Yep.
You know, we've been hunting locally and semi-locally, but we've never reached out that far.
Yeah.
My opinion, if the ambulance service can do it, we can.
I don't disagree. I think that's a good path for us to really examine and take it till it won't go anymore, or we get it done, one of the two.
We've been fighting it for years. You can ask Dr. Humphries.
Yep.
Dr. Alton.
Well, my question is, I mean, years and years and years ago, one of my dogs got out. I went and got her. I wrote the check right there when I picked her up. So are we not doing that anymore?
Yes, depends. If your animal has to be altered and it has to have its shot and has to have a chip. So that's part of the fine.
I have to register the chip too.
Yeah, you probably paid your reclaim fee, but you could have received a citation also for dog running at large.
Okay.
I think that's the part that we're missing. We're getting that on the front end, the reclaim fees, things like that, but also on the side of writing citations into municipal court, I think that's where we're lacking.
Okay, so our reclaim fee right now, I know our adoption fee is $1, but our reclaim fee, is it $1 or is there?
I don't have that memorized.
Okay.
$40.
It's only $40. Okay.
I know they have to have them spayed if they're not spayed, am I correct? So if you're missing one of your breeding dogs, Barry, it has to be spayed before it leaves.
Now, if it's
Paper. If it's
registered,
a registered dog, it doesn't.
I remember going through that in.
you have to prove that.
Yeah. Have the paperwork, but that was one of the things that it was paid at the time. And so,
Listen to Councilor Halverson talking about the ordinance. I don't know what committee needs to take that up,
That's public safety.
but that needs to be done
There's several things in the ordinances. that
because it doesn't sound like maybe the ordinance is kept up with the times we're in.
It was last done in 2018.
Things have changed a little bit.
Mhm.
So I would recommend, who was the chair of that one?
Me.
Well, I would recommend that you guys pick this up.
We already had this discussion several times.
Quit talking and get to doing.
That's worried about a lot of other things right now.
I get that.
Since you can be 8 months if we did it last time. We did it in 8 months.
Well, I can tell you that there's a couple of things are worthy of pursuing. Going to the county, I can assure you that the answer you're going to get is, we'll look at it when we put our next budget together. They're not going to say, oh, you know.
Is that January though? When they-
So once again, the city's paying up front on a bet that we'll get some movement from these other communities as far as the revenue side is concerned. But what's got me is that we don't have to stay. They've agreed to come in. I don't know what they're going to say or do. Say or do whatever they say or do. But what warranty do I have if we put these 5 additional people on, that this problem's going to go away? Have any warranty on that?
No, I don't issue warranties. I've been there a long time. What I did notice, I was just looking at this, best I can tell, he figured that for an entire year. Now, I know this is a recurring expense, so it'd have to be, but we're halfway through the year almost.
Right.
So that 325 for the rest of this year, and then if we can get stuff from the county, may not be that big of an impact. So I would think that we're halfway through the year, so that 325 is probably that would be for a full year.
Yeah. Well, to your terms of warranty, I would like to see before this, when you come to full council, assuming it leaves here, which it probably will, but I want to see what the processes are so that this is all addressed, so that the people in this room know this is what the city's going to do. And then we've got ways to monitor that that's what we are doing.
Right.
I think that's to Councilor Corn's question about warranty. If we don't see a process written and somebody checking to make sure that that process is being followed.
And I think Jim can probably tell you what processes.
I would like to see that.
You, buddy.
That's all that.
I would like to see that. I think that's only fair to everyone here that, like I said, we're just throwing money out there. That doesn't always solve the problem.
It may change though after this audit, but we have policies and procedures.
But you have policies and procedures, but is one of your policies and procedures to issue citations to people?
Yes.
And are we, when they walk in?
Yes.
So, well.
And we put in that new system, the 24 Pet Connect, backside of that for officers. We know how many times we've been to your house, how
Right.
many times that animal's been through. So that's kicking it up a couple notches too. It's first time, all right, come get your animal. You've been there 3 or 4 times, then it's gonna be a problem. So
Right.
Well,
we've automated that, so it helps. And then the next step will be buy some iPads for officers and take pictures of the houses and different things and conditions that'll help us in court.
Well, maybe the other thing when I ask the counselor here is that third time we come to your house, you're arrested.
Okay.
well, and the problem I think too with
Then they go to.
with the staff being shorthanded, I think some of the reclaims and some of the adoptions are not being made because the photos aren't that great because they just don't have the time to take them. The 24 Pet Connect may not be updated as quickly as it should be. So I think with additional staff, these things could happen and then maybe the reclaims and the adoptions will increase.
And also it's affecting our rescues, our rescue partners, because they're not getting the information that they need. So because they're shorthanded. So we have a lot of rescue partners right now that are telling us if these things don't get fixed, they're not going to pull from us anymore.
Also, we have plenty of people like myself willing to go down there and help to do videos for them so they don't have to. I've spent hours down there doing that and they have completely cut me off from doing that, which is key to getting all of those animals.
I think you're working on a volunteer program, right? For training and stuff, so that we could have people.
Do we have a volunteer program that?
The Friends of
with a
Roswell,
written-
I mean-
No, do we have a written agreement?
No, that's what they're working on.
Okay.
We're waiting for them to present that to us.
Okay.
But
Why would they
these
cut off?
are friends of Roswell Animals, volunteers. that are-
But the support Roswell Animals is
To
gonna
do that, they're really not allowing us to do that right now because they have kennel club, they have some other things going on.
Insurance
So
issues.
No, we have animals that have kennel cough, they're gonna stay put. We're not gonna run them up.
That's why we want to see,
So-
yeah.
And there's other ways of doing this. You have officers claiming, you have one kennel worker,
Yeah.
100 cases. We looked at putting kennels outside on the gravel. However, if I've got 100 cages inside to clean and I take the animal outside and put it in that cage, I have to clean that before I put the next one in. So I'm making 200 cages. Okay, so there's a lot more math to it than
Yeah.
that we have here, but any of the rescue groups, if they feel any pushback whatsoever, you please come find me and I will go with you to make sure that we have a process procedure to help any volunteer we'll take any volunteer from anywhere to help us out. So whether it's a picture or a video, or we have to put a place off to the side where we can do that and then clean it and do it again. Okay?
And then I'm hoping next year they'll have the salaries. in
Well,
the
we'll have
budget.
the plan, the audit,
Mhm.
if you will.
Then you can have a budget.
And then when we can start our budget deliberations, March, I guess, February, March, and we'll have our mid-year review. Hopefully we'll have this quarterly review done before we meet again. I mean, it's just kind of way out of cycle because this is a recurring expenditure that needs to be included in the budget from now on. This isn't one and done.
That's right.
So that's silly me. I think about things going to happen next year and hopefully the year after. And so, all right.
Mr. Chair.
Anything else?
Yeah, I have a question for Mr. Matthews. He said that this number that they're asking us to look at is based upon a 12-month cycle.
That's,
And that is not what we should be approving today because we're already halfway to that.
that's right.
And so this number should be adjusted to the current situation that we're in.
Well, and these people are not on the ground yet either.
Well, that's what I mean. And so that number is not 325.
Right.
Is what I'm hearing.
That's the rest of the year. And I was just trying to do the math in my head here, but
About 160.
yeah.
That's 150, 162.5.
There you go. Yes, sir.
I think from here, there again, like you said, we don't know if they're going to be able to get 5 hired, be able to get 3 hired. We don't know in that process of time. I think that the addition of the positions would be most appropriate moving forward and then the money trail will follow from there with what the division becomes. I think I was trying to put that exact number together. We're all going to come up with a different number because we don't know.
So I guess my question is, you're saying, put the positions on at mid-year, we'll make the money appear.
Again?
At mid-year, when we take a look at budget transfers?
Well, I would.
When authorize the 5 new.
I think we need to authorize and then, like you said, from mid-year, you can
Make the money happen.
Yeah. But in my opinion, Mr. Chair, my concern is if we don't do this now, what is the other option to do right now? Because once you know, it's one thing when you're dealing with the state, when you don't realize you're not operating to par. There's some grace involved in a learning curve and finding out and fixing things. But when we know there's a problem, but we say, well, let's wait till mid-year or let's wait till later. Now we run into major problems because to me, there's only 2 options. That's either add these positions or decrease the number of those animals. And I'm not willing to decrease the number of animals. That's just me.
There's 67 vacant positions in the city of Roswell right now.
Yes.
And we don't, according to this report, and if my math's right, I didn't take my shoes off, so that's a good thing.
54 if you remove police and fire.
Okay.
And hopefully, Mr. Chairman, I think we may end up with those 5 extras from police.
You gotta have a little faith.
And I hope I get these 2 leather over that. I really do. But
I'll never live it down, buddy.
you jumped ahead of me a little. You jumped a little bit ahead of me on that. And that's the fact that these positions that we have, we're not going to get full. So I really think that the absorption of this money, that we're not going to have to be looking for money. There's going to be it may be a transfer from one place to another, but you're not going, you've got areas, I mean, you were talking about a 30%, with the, water, customer service. I think if you look at that customer service with water is 100%. I think the library's sitting at 60%. There's a lot that are a whole lot, having difficulties right now. So it's a universal problem that we're having with people employed right now. It's a universal thing. I don't think it's just for this department. So I think with that being said, there's going to be money that we have budgeted right now that's never going to be spent I think it's part of when we have this discussion about the quarterly. So I think it's going to be absorbed. I really do.
Well, and I know because I've looked into it, problems on the work stuff, but you're ever dealing with customer tactic. Somebody's always yelling at you, pointing their finger at you like you're responsible. I understand that. I've been over there and listened to some of those conversations. It's an ugly place to work whenever you're on that front counter. Every day, here, as soon as you open the door, here they come. They're all bad, wound up. I'm not going to listen to reason at that point. We need a timeout room over there, I think. Give them a little timeout to cool down and get their thoughts together. And the zoo's down 10. I mean, I got it. And we're going to have, even at this figure, in my estimation, 162.5. We don't have those positions filled yet.
Well, Mr. Chair,
Sir.
I think what I'm hearing Councilor Perry say, we're not going to tag a dollar amount to this. We're just going to authorize 5 new positions over there and let the dollars fall where they fall and look at a mid-year to see what.
That's my personal opinion.
I don't disagree with that we put the 5 positions on and we'll make those budget adjustments internally and not just say, okay, here's your 162,000, go spend it. Because no, not going to do that.
You're tying up 162,000 that we only may end up spending 90,000 of.
That's right.
You just don't know.
Right.
Okay, so
But we're actually 6 positions. There's 1 enforcement and 5.
That's right.
Sir.
I would just suggest whatever you do, you send a notice on increasing or on fines and send one to the judge and send one to the staff about making sure they increase the fines or whatever fine is. Many people make sure if we can get some increased income.
Well, we gotta work together to create that.
Yeah, well, that's going to follow because she's not ready to go yet, but she's already made a promise. I'm taking it as a promise. That it's going to get done with her committee working on that.
Yeah. And Mr. Chairman, I was just going to say, I stayed quiet in that conversation, but just because someone, receives that, help me. Citation doesn't mean that the judge is going to.
I know how.
You know anything about that?
So be careful how you write your citation.
It's mandatory,
We can bypass the municipal court.
That's the way the state DWI laws are. On conviction, a minimum of, maximum of, first, second, third. I never dealt with force because that's a felony. Other than preliminary.
Don't give them due process, just write the ordinance so it works.
And once you write that citation.
You want to make that motion?
Something for you to think about is, because right now you guys are holding the animals, right?
That's what I had to.
Until Foster, I'll second the council.
We need to get this approved, and your pickup fee is going to go up a whole lot more than $40.
Not the rescues. You're talking about.
Not the rescues,
Yeah.
but I'm talking about my dog gets out or if my cat gets picked up or whatever, instead of going by there talking to my buddy Jim saying, here's your $40. Oh, no.
Well, you can increase incrementally too. First time, second time, third time.
You guys will figure it out.
You got a problem.
They'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. You're running short on time.
Can I ask you, 5 positions are considered what? What are those 5 positions? The 5 and the 1. The 1 position would be another control officer.
The other 5 is. I just got to figure out how. What I'm wrestling with is how to do it and maybe just adding 5 positions.
Well, the council's got a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we send to full council at the next regular city council meeting. Recommendation to add 5 kennel workers and 1 animal control officer to our employment.
Second.
Okay, just a second. Now, before we vote on this, we got a lot of people We've heard from some of them. Anybody else got anything to say before we vote on this motion? Go ahead.
Statement, but after hearing the discussion, I don't think it's all necessary, but I very much approve of the way this is moving forward. Thank you very much. Just to kind of back up some of what we're saying here, the current policy requires the shelter to be open either during the week until 6 PM or when you're on the weekends. It's not open because they don't have enough staff. So animals can't be reclaimed by people who, I work 8 to 5 Monday to Friday. I have 2 time off here. You know, people can't go in, they can't go adopt because the place is closed. This is an example of a photograph. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a dog with its behind. You can't see its face. So if I work 8 to 5 and I say, well, let's adopt an animal. Oh, they're closed. And so we're told go to 24 Pet Connect to see what's available. This is what I'm going to see. It's because we're understaffed. The staff don't have the time to mess with all the animals and take a breed picture. And this animal's going to be euthanized because it's not given a chance. So we need more staff there to take care of it, make this better. And the public this year, I represent Support Roswell Animals Group. We've been working with the city. We are developing a volunteer program. A lot of people care about this. And the people of Roswell want to volunteer and give support this as well. So it's not just that the city's burden to add more costs to the taxpayers, but a lot of people, when you go there for free and tell them this school. And we're talking about how does this function, this thing's kind of dysfunctional. We want to help make this place better. But we do need the minimum staff because that's right now, we can't even go in there. They don't even have time to let volunteers come in because they don't have the staff to look at the volunteers or talk to volunteers. So please approve this and move it to the next step, please.
The county has told me that they have animals captured. They go by there, nobody's there to take the animal. And so they drive around with the animals in the back of their truck. And that's not a good thing.
Mr. Chair, if I may, can you state your name and address for the record?
My name is Nicole Lees. I'm a citizen and also.
The address, can you say your address?
My personal address, 5016 Apache Hills Drive.
Thank you.
Roswell, I live in the county.
Thank you, that's fine, thank you. Just for the record.
All right, yeah, we got
Motion in a second.
got a motion, second. Anything else? Anybody? Okay. All those in favor of the motion to increase the staff at the.
5 and 1.
Well, 6 total.
Yeah.
Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you all. Appreciate you all joining us today.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Full plane and you're just with 30 different people. That's gonna solve the problem.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Hey, great.
How are you doing?
Good, how are you doing?
How you
You should keep that up.
Well, you got a big backyard, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Well, let's go out there and build it.
The sad thing is I'd probably do it, but I don't think you'd like it too much.
Oh,
You're right. You have to listen to that grumpy old guy all the time. Yeah. It's good to see you, Abby. Good.
Sorry.
It's 528, Councilor. Which means back to work.
I'm sorry to pass your bubble. You should have left. Let's get going. We still got some items on the agenda.
Meeting call to order, please.
Yeah, y'all go out in the hall and talk.
Yeah, go and talk, please.
All right, now we're on to, I don't even know where we're at. Lost track. Item 6, you said?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're at item 6, which is the buyer's order contract for the Creative Best Sales for 3 years. Page 260 in the packet. Can't close that, but
It's an open door meeting. I'll leave it open.
Sorry.
Okay.
No, you did the right thing.
Okay, this is super fast. I'm gonna save the general fund $152,000.
We just spent it.
However,
But
So, and I'm part of the problem with your old POs. I have a PO from fiscal year 21, 22 that are old, because we couldn't get our buses. We had them on order, but they weren't coming in. So, but the buses have gone up. So I'm just wanting to redistribute the money that I already have budgeted. Two of the buses that were on the order for fiscal year 21 have gone up from like 236,000 to, or 239,200 to 263,000 because of a steel surcharge. And I was supposed to get 4 buses in fiscal year 22, which we budgeted for in the city's budget. And the state said they were going to give me 2 extra buses, but they didn't actually allocate the money. So I'm going to get 2 buses for 22 and then 2 buses for 23. And so it's a net reduction in my budget of $152,000. But I just need your approval because we always have to come to council to get the approval to order the buses in the first place.
This is easy. I have a motion.
Jump.
You got it, Mr. Foster?
Okay.
Can we put this on consent or does it need
I
to?
think we can put it on consent, don't you? Even though it's a high, but it's a savings.
If you get now some wording.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of the wording, how to, a reallocation. Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we reallocate funds.
Well, I actually need approvals for
Oh.
order the 23 buses.
Oh, with approval,
And
okay.
reallocate funds for 21 and 22.
Okay, for what she said. I have,
Second.
Oh, no, I'm not buying it.
I make a motion that we approve the funding for the 2 buses for 23 and a reallocation of the budget, the money for the 21 and the 22 buses.
Second.
Okay. All right. You got something?
No, I would just hope that they work something out with our transit system where they could stop by the furthest south, one of the furthest south piece of properties from Roswell proper, and stop and pick up at that last city stop out there. Just by the bowling alley, they can pick up those people and bring them back to town instead of just making them all walk when they leave that nice facility there.
Oh,
The county's,
they'll give you a ride anytime you need a ride.
It's in the city limits.
but it's the county's hotel.
It's fine, but it's in the city limits.
It's in the city limits. You guys annexed it.
We have a
It's still the county's hotel.
We just call us up and we come get you.
Okay.
We only get one phone call.
I don't know. I don't know how many I've been thinking.
How do you know?
He's gotten one.
Saw it on TV.
That's seen on TV.
I got a motion, a second. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Thank you. We like you because you're saving us money.
Also, those buses, those POs are gonna carry forward another fiscal year.
How's she tell?
Now, there's
Thank you.
the other shoe. It dropped.
All right, so we're talking about buying some fence for the Noon Optimist, Randy Williams, Pocorn and Joe Bowman. Who's got this?
That would be me. I'm Sarah Bradley. We are looking to have the finance committee consider recommending approval of the cost estimate and purchase order for services by Skyway for the repair and installation of fencing and netting at the sports fields. And to give you a little background, the Sports Tourism Initiative began in 2020 with the hopes of bringing a different avenue of tourism to Roswell. With COVID out of the way, the league started up again and requests for tournaments began to filter in. In order to bring these tournaments to Roswell, league presidents and staff did walkthroughs of the sports fields and noted needed repairs, improvements, and upgrades. So staff began working on a 5-year plan to improve these fields.
The money that we are currently looking to spend has been budgeted in the recreation M&R sports league line item. So the amount that that is being requested is the $296,519. With the scope of work in this PowerPoint, you'll see each of the fields listed with the removal and replacement of damaged fencing and hardware, each field broken up and the cost to each of those fields. So we are asking for you to consider recommending approval of the cost estimate and purchase order for services by Tri-West Fence for the repair and installation of the
Bid
fencing.
out local.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask? I'm seeing some of this is the 21-foot mesh as well, correct? I'm trying to understand. I don't know terminology on fencing,
Yes, that is correct.
and that's the fabric.
There is some netting, and then there's some chain link fence.
Okay, so
Chain link fence, right, the actual blades are up to 30 foot tall, and then some of the netting say if Joe Bauman it's 40 foot tall.
Okay.
So there's a lot of.
That's just, didn't understand the terminology.
Yield to the mayor.
I yield to you.
No, I just want to, who plays at Pro Corn anymore?
That was my question too.
Yeah.
So currently, right now, you're right, there is not a league, but we do have teams, travel teams and sports teams from New Optimus and Lions Condo as well that practice on those fields.
So they're underutilized compared to what the others are.
Correct.
There's not a league there anymore.
Not a league there. The question is, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
how was this process bid out? Did we have any local vendors who showed any interest in this?
The local vendors, we went out to Tyler and reached out to all of the local ones first. And of the three, only one returned the phone call and said that they were not interested. Tri-West has been utilized by the city before in the past for things that
Right. Let me ask you this, Justin. You're very aware, I guess, of the condition of these fields. And to follow up on your question about Poke Horn, how bad is that one in comparison if we're just using it for practice fields?
So where I started was with safety concerns also. So the fencing at Oak Horn, they've used it for practice to throw balls in. So it's folded the fence at the bottom. So it's a trip hazard. Also, areas of the chain link fence have broken apart. And so right at kid base height, we have areas of chain link sticking out so that you can't see it when it's a little darker if you've got sunrise, whatever. So you've got areas where there's trip hazard, you've got areas where there's stab and poke hazards. The benches in the actual dugouts are falling apart and wobbling back and forth. My team could take care of those things, but the main thing is the fences. There's two areas in one of the fields where both of the entry gates have come off and are laying there on the ground and are attached by one wire that somebody could trip on. So there was mainly safety issues with that one.
We're going to take that or take it out too. Yes, sir.
The question about Joe Bauman, I always bomb saying that name. Do we currently have an MOU with RISU?
I know that our recreation department is working on that MOU right now. They're still working things through that currently,
Okay.
but there will be.
So that would be one of the places, I mean, we can go to ask for. I mean, I know we went at least a year without any MOU with them. Talk to them about ponying up some of the money for that. Because they use that as their, Roswell High needs it for their varsity. And so, but that would be one of my segments is we can ask. It's not something that we still need to fund this, but it might be a way of coming back on the backside of it and getting some of the money back.
I can just point out one thing. I know that in almost all of these fields of bleachers, there's no handrails or anything for anyone to climb up into especially at Joe Bowman. There's no handrails or anything where somebody going upstairs can get on. And I don't know about bleachers about how much that is. I just know there's an awful lot of people can't. Joe Bowman can't go up the stairs. They might be something to look at. I would tell you that I know the city, we still own the Wool Bowl and the schools haven't leased. But I know when they went out, when the Institute went out to play, the women's bathrooms and stuff were falling apart. And I think the city has put a whole bunch of money in fitting metal bathrooms in all the women's bathrooms, stalls and all that stuff, because they were all wood before. And soon, whenever it rains, it swell and then the doors, people break the doors off trying to get out of the stalls. The city or the schools have done a lot of repair. I know on that facility.
What a lot of us meeting over with me over there talking, like, come on.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, this is part of the 5-year plan. So with the money that we had available this year and asking some of the league presidents and looking at the safety concerns, the netting and the fencing is the first priority to kind of work down that list. Bathrooms are also included. And then the next big cost is lighting for all of these fields to update because they haven't been updated except for Lions Hondo, I believe. But the rest of them have not. So we're working towards that. This is kind of the first initial step after we did our research, our walkthrough, and then also part of that sports tourism initiative. So,
if you can put a package together on lighting on all the fields or bathrooms on all the fields, those kind of package like that would be very beneficial maybe for some of the legislators who might find extra money somewhere, that they can stick that together. If you'll put a package together to relight all the fields and save energy, you can go to SPS and get a grant. And bathrooms, you just kind of have to go to, you're going to have to go to somebody, free water or something to get benefits, but you can put a package together to do it in the legislature. Get a good chance of getting somebody to fund it.
Yeah. Okay. And historically, the reason why Lions Hondo has the lights is they came to the city and asked if we would fund half of it, and they raised the money and then paid us back.
And that was some mistakes were made. They had started tearing out the field and didn't realize the money had been sent to the county on accident instead of the city. And then Richardson reclaimed the money. And then, so we were in a quandary as to what to do. And so we looked at it and they raised, it was a great partnership. Yeah, worked real well.
Okay. Well, that's something to work on. Maybe get with some of these organizations that use these fields, see if they can't pitch in. Dollar's better than none.
Yeah, Pam Boyd and Lions Hondo pitched in a significant amount of money.
75,000, and then they turned around and paid us back the other 75. I believe that was the agreement.
That was big.
Yeah, 150.
What's your pleasure?
Mr. Chair, I move that we consider recommending approval of the cost estimate purchase order services by Tri-West Fence in the total amount of $296,519.12. These items are already in the budget, so we're just approving the expenditure.
Second.
Is it on consent or regular?
Oh, we better put it out there. $296,000 is going to get pulled.
So you're presenting.
Sorry, but $296,000 probably going to get pulled.
Okay. Any other discussion? Got a motion, second. Any opposition? Passes 4-0.
Thank you, Chair.
Got to be quick.
Yeah.
Got to be quick today. We're running out of time.
Because Council Perry's
got to leave here in a minute.
And then you're going to bring that other stuff up?
Other stuff.
Okay, I'm with Keep Rock, I'm sorry, I'm with Keep Rockville Beautiful. My name is Kathy Knight.
I am again, one that's going to be, I believe it's going to be an easy one because I'm not asking for any money from the city. This is just to reallocate a budget where I received a grant that was more than we anticipated. And so that money is, I'm asking that it be moved from our revenue into our expense budget. So I'll be able to spend that. On the background, the original $50,000 budget was prior to the grant award announcement. We originally had expected $25,000 from the Clean and Beautiful grant, and the city matched that with a budgeted $25,000 for a total budget of $50,000. The grant award that I received was higher than anticipated, and the actual award was for $49,109.44. The amount from the city would be staying the same at $25,000, so that my budget would be reallocated adjustment to $79,109.44. Next slide, please. Supporting document that I sent over is the signed grant agreement, a copy of the first half of the check, and the deposit from that, so that I'm verifying that we are receiving that amount. The award amount is given in 2 payments. The first half is given at the beginning of the grant period. We've already received that. The second half will be given to the city once all of the projects are completed and the reporting is submitted to the state. There is no increased cost to the city. This will only be adding the awarded grant to my revenue to keep our local people budget. Legal has reviewed the agreement and it's already been signed. Next. The required match is $25,000 if the current $25,000 contribution does meet that. But if there is no budget adjustment, the grant would then be basically taking over the majority of our budget. So the city would only be contributing $890.56, and that would not meet our grant agreement for the match that's required. Approval of the budget adjustment this time would meet the match and would allow Keep Roswell Beautiful to finalize my plans and complete the projects and have time to complete the reporting. Next. The adjustment would be $49,109.44 would be the revenue. $25,000 would be the match from the city, which would be staying the same with an adjusted budget of $79,109.44. I stand for questions.
I don't know if we can do this. I remember Chairman saying we weren't doing any budget adjustments.
Yeah, I know.
When we're getting extra money, we're willing to
make those adjustments. I think that's what I meant.
We're not asking for more money. We're just asking you to spend the money from a grant.
I have a motion.
Somebody make a motion.
Council Foster's your turn.
Can I make a request that it be put on as a consent item?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to consider a budget adjustment for Keep Roswell Beautiful program to include the full amount awarded from the New Mexico Department of Tourism, the Clean and Beautiful Grant Program.
On the consent agenda.
To be placed on the consent agenda.
Second.
Correction of your, I'm sorry, but just that one correction. We're not making a motion to consider. We're making a motion to send recommendation.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
Second.
Hurry. You got me for 12 more minutes. Go.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign, passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we got our favorite disposal of property guy.
Different stuff, same resolution.
What are you getting rid of?
Office chair.
Office chair, this,
Tranquilizer gun, really?
Oh,
I can get on that.
Oh, you said you wouldn't do that. I will.
that was supposed to be for committee meetings, but.
Read my mind.
Just
Like
like,
reach the end of the table.
just like with any other.
Your voice does pretty good anyway.
Don't sell these. It's done as a trade-in with an authorized dealer.
Oh,
Interesting.
okay.
Chairman, I make a motion, we send to full council on the consent agenda, the approval, a recommendation to approve a resolution authorizing the disposal of certain surplus personal property to include exhibits A and exhibits B.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, say, any opposed? 4-0. Change my mind. Sir.
Who's your head disposer of property? Was he the same one on TV yesterday, Marquesian?
I hope not.
I hope
No,
not
I
too.
wondered, I didn't know. I didn't know if he had any brass to sell or not. I was kind of curious.
We don't sell brass yet.
All right, last item on the agenda, 10. I doubt we're going to have very much public participation because all the folks left.
Yeah.
Item 10. Whose is it?
Mr. Fuentes.
Yes.
Okay.
Committee members, so any purchase over 60,000 requires a recommendation to the city council. This item is being brought forth. It is a police department expenditure. Yes, Mike Taylor's here and Justin Holcomb will be just kind of giving some information on this item.
Is this for the HVAC?
Yes, sir.
Get it done.
We've got 10 minutes, so I will make it very quick.
Hold him here till he's going to be late.
Yes, sir. So we are asking for the committee's acceptance to move for council pending a PO to do the upgrade on our HVAC.
Yeah.
We presented this on our ICIP list in June, and the committee graciously accepted to fund it outside of the ICIP. We have dealt with, Justin has dealt with the company and gotten an approval or a proposal in April of $116,186.97. That bid has not changed. They are maintaining that current price. So we are just asking the board to obtain a PO. The company, by my understanding, has reached out to Justin and identified that they have obtained at least 99 or 98% of all the needed items to begin the work. And so we're just looking for the approval of PO.
Let's hurry up before they change their mind.
No, it's in the budget, so
I
it's in
know.
the budget.
And as a side note, we'll be serving a plate of leather for Mr. Perry. Chew on.
I think it's wonderful.
We're staffed at the 94 that we started.
Yeah.
We do have 5 in the process, and we are looking at having all 5 hired by the first, no later than middle of December.
Oh,
And if you need to come back,
And we will come back for the next 5.
Okay,
just let us know when you're ready.
Yes, sir.
sounds like a plan.
Mr.
I like it when a plan-
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Split it.
Mr. Mayor.
Mayor,
All right, what,
make a motion that we send to the consent agenda, recommending approval of purchases over 60,000 for the HVAC for the police department of $116,186.97.
Second.
got a motion, second, further discussion? Any opposition? Passes 4-0. Okay, let's go to public participation.
I have one more comment. Would you place an officer on the edge of town with a radar gun because Councilor Perry's going to be.
Hey,
City limits right now.
All right, good deal.
Yeah. Inside.
Okay, perfect. Pursuit clause kicked it in. He sees you inside the city limits, he can pursue.
Is there anyone on?
Yes, we have 7 members, if you want to show that.
Oh, we have a bunch.
MLK.
All right, anybody have anything they wish to bring before us? We'll listen to you. We're not going to take any action on any items, but it might get put up at a later date.
No participation.
Anybody? Anybody in the electronic world that's trying, okay. Oh,
Comments?
oh, very good. Thank you, Bruce. Okay, not having any comments, adjourn this meeting.
Thank you, Chair. Chair. Matt?